Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome back to this very special edition of Atlanta Business Radio. This is ATDC Radio. Stone Payton here with you. Lee Cantor, my partner in crime, visibly absent. We wish him all the best up there in Chicago with wife Abby and son Max. Max, shout out to you, man. Knock 'em dead over there at Second City. But this is going to be a fantastic segment. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast Investor Relations Manager with ATDC, Mr. Brad Schweizer. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I am doing well. What have you been up to since we talked to you last?
Yeah, so I guess it's been a few months now. Been very busy. Lots of companies are out trying to raise capital. Been helping them, figure out the model that they want to go after and how much they want to raise and what they want to do with that. And, the past couple weeks have really been focused on this week is Venture Atlanta. Lots of investors in town.
Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of meeting schedules. And then, I've been working a lot on this ATDC Venture Showcase in New York and Boston, which is coming up November 12th and 14th. And so the past few months have really been a lot of work trying to get companies to apply, selecting which companies are going to attend, and identifying investors that would be a good fit to attend this event.
It sounds like a lot of logistics are involved in this thing. Right?
Oh, it is.
I mean, I know you're smart and charming and all that, but you got to be, or either have someone on your team that's really good at the organizing.
Yeah, there's a lot of detail oriented tasks involved that I get my feet wet and handle a few of them, but there's definitely somebody else that's kind of focused exclusively on the logistics piece. Thank goodness.
All right. So what does this thing look like? You're going to go on the road with some people in the ATDC ecosystem. You're all headed to New York, Boston?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So, so what we're doing is the ATDC is taking about 14 companies up to the Northeast, to New York and Boston, basically to give a quick 4-minute pitch to a room full of investors, and then they will have the chance to meet with multiple different investors in one-on-one meetings thereafter. So the whole premise is companies get up there, they give a quick pitch just to, get their problem and solution across and generate a little interest. And then really the entire point is to have these companies be able to chat with investors one-on-one that they otherwise might not ever be able to reach. I will say one thing, that the companies that are attending, although this is sponsored by the ATDC and all of our other corporate sponsors as well, the companies themselves do not have to be ATDC based. So there are a few that the requirement is you got to be in Georgia. So there's a few companies that are not, officially part of the ATDC portfolio, but were high quality enough that we said, hey, let's bring these guys with us as well because we want to showcase Georgia overall and how good those companies are.
So, and are they spread across several disciplines? Have you got them in yes. So
yeah.
Are you allowed to talk about who they are yet? Is that
so? I can't say exactly who they are yet, but
okay.
Definitely can talk, a little bit on industry or vertical and kind of size and where the company's at. There's some great stuff there. So, we've got companies that are doing fintech plays.
Mm-hmm.
We've got companies that are doing healthcare IT plays. Companies that are just doing your general B2B SaaS or marketing, ad
and
tech.
they competed to get to this point, or there was a selection process?
They
and that's
did.
why we can't talk about it just yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a little bit before. Okay.
Yeah, so the way it worked was, a month or two ago, we sent out an email to the community and our community partners and posted on social media basically saying, hey, ATDC is accepting applications to take companies to the Northeast to meet with a bunch of investors. And so,
and that got just a little bit of interest, I suppose. Yes.
Yes. Actually, this particular round, we received quite a few applications and the companies were extremely high caliber. It was very
nice.
tough. Yeah. It was great to see and, very challenging to make the decision. So I think that people that attend the trip, whether they're investors or companies, they're going to see some really, really strong entrepreneurs.
So is it sometimes the case that someone really is strong? You know what your guys are looking at. You've got a good, an educated crowd that knows what to look for, but maybe they don't have their 4-minute thing down. Do you try to help them get that?
Man, you nailed it. That is not uncommon at all. And so, yes, we do help them nail that down. We have a few pitch practice sessions, quote unquote, that we hold a few weeks before. We are bringing in an individual who her entire practice is based around crafting a story for investment and pitching purposes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so she is going to be extremely valuable. I mean, these companies, in addition to, getting to go to the Northeast and meet a room of curated investors, they get this amazing feedback on their business itself and how to craft a pitch that, regardless of whatever happens when they go to New York and Boston, they can take the learnings from that particular pitch rehearsal experience and use it, for any business they create over the rest of their lives.
Yeah, no, that alone.
I know.
Just going through the process, right?
Absolutely. It's one of the great things that the ATDC really does for the community. Because again, like I said, even non-ATDC companies that get accepted are able to go through this pitch practice.
Very nice. So what was the impetus for this? Was this a Brad brainchild?
I wish I could say that. Actually, it was the brainchild of our assistant director, Jane McCracken.
Oh, yeah.
We
love us some Jane McCracken over at Business Radio X. We think the world of her.
Yeah, she is incredibly sharp. A great operator. And so I wasn't here when the initial decision to come up with this type of road trip was planned, but my understanding is that it was kind of Jane's brainchild. And the way she was explaining it to me was, hey, this is a pretty simple, easy idea. Let's bring some companies out to the West Coast and out to New York and Boston and see if we can get a room of investors to show up. And it's really, really taken off and grew into this beast that is a huge component of what the ATDC has to offer and a huge part of my particular role here as the investor relations manager.
So, to get it funded, did you get some people who are sponsoring other ATDC things to kind of pony up and do this, or some new sponsorship, or how did that piece work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, a lot of the corporate sponsors that sponsor the ATDC overall have agreed to pick up a particular section of this road trip.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It speaks to the fact that they are seeing the ROI, the value of the investment they've already made.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that instills a lot of confidence that what we're doing is actually valuable, that, people are willing to give us money to take these companies up there and feed them and curate events at the New York Stock Exchange and just do some really amazing things. So yeah, they get a ton of value out of it as well. It's really awesome. It's a great event, and I would love to anybody in New York or Boston, or if you just want to fly up there for it and attend and watch these companies pitch, it will be worth your time.
You may already be doing this, or you may have someone with this inclination on the team going up there, but it would be so fun as a layperson from the outside looking in, if you documented parts of this trip. I don't know if you could get somebody to just take some footage or whatever, but it would be fun to see that.
Oh, it absolutely would. And so I will say that we definitely try. There's the core ATDC staff members that are attending. There's 3, 4, 5 of us.
Right. They're going to have their cell phone out the whole time, right? Taking pictures, taking little videos.
Exactly.
No,
Which is great. Oh, yeah. And we'll try and put it on social media. I will say that, usually we're pretty slammed running around, making sure people are signed in, or that the AV components are actually working. So sometimes it's hard to capture everything in the moment, but we absolutely do our best. And yeah, it really is. I'll make sure that you're included on some of those.
I would yes, I definitely want to tap in. I would like to just vicariously live this experience with you guys, and would love to try to help promote it any way we can, from the Business Radio X standpoint. But what you're doing, I'm so enamored with the idea in general. I'm so impressed with the fact that you can actually pull it off, because I know there's a lot of moving parts. There's lining up the investors, there's lining up the venues, there's coordinating with the sponsors, there's working with the companies. there are some companies that wanted to go that aren't going to get to go that are very deserving, and we want to support that. We don't want to quash that.
Right.
I mean, I know there's a lot of moving parts, which kind of brings me back to full circle. Talk to me a little bit more about day to day, for Brad, year round, your role as this investor relations manager. What kind of activities are you engaging in, in between these fun things like this?
Right. Well, a lot of what I'm doing is directly correlated to these road trips. So I'm either meeting with companies. Some of the companies that I've met with are actually going on this road trip, and we've met and discussed how much capital should I raise, how should I structure my pitch, what investors should I target. So, it's really exciting when I'm doing things like that and working with a company, and then I get to see them go put it into practice in front of an investor, in New York or Boston, and see that, hey, they wanted to meet this person, so they rehearsed and got everything in order, and I was there to help them, and now they've got the meeting, and, hopefully they get a follow-up and get an investment. And so work with the companies a lot, and then I also spend a lot of my time chatting with different investors, venture capitalists, which is super important because, I can go and meet face-to-face with investors here in Atlanta, but if I want to get the attention of an investor from the coast or New York to be interested or even look at an Atlanta company I send them, I need to talk to them first and figure out what they're interested in and give them a little bit of information on the ATDC so that they can feel confident that, hey, if Brad's going to send me this company, not only has it met ATDC's criteria, Brad has looked at it himself and he's comfortable that at least there's a sound business involved, whether or not they, will invest.
But you personally, and ATDC, you enjoy that credibility with this investor crowd.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is incredibly invaluable to the companies here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've got to be cognizant of when making these introductions is, if I send one or two companies that just are not ready, that reflects poorly on me. Yeah, exactly.
And that impedes all people after that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow, what a responsibility.
Yeah. Now you're making me nervous.
Well, I'm fascinated with this whole world. Me and my business partner, we've built up this pretty good little business. We've bootstrapped it, and I don't know. There may come a time where we need and want to try to scale it. We may need to go get money.
Right.
It strikes me as it seems like it could very quickly become a full-time job in and of itself, right?
Yeah, it absolutely could. There are definitely people out there that kind of play the, hey, I'll help you raise capital and take, 1% or whatever it may be of the capital raise. But I think that, they are specifically helping companies just kind of find investors. The beauty of my role here at the ATDC and to get paid by the organization to do this is that I'm able to spend a lot of time with these companies and not necessarily worry about, the return that I personally get on it. The satisfaction and return I get is when I make an introduction to this company to an investor, and next thing, 6 months down the road, they've got funding, right? That's exciting.
That's got to feel great. You must sleep really well at night.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes.
So what is your backstory? How did you land in this kind of role?
Yeah, good question. So let's see. I am from St. Louis, Missouri. I moved down to Atlanta about 9 years ago. Went to grad school at Emory University. I got a joint JD MBA. Went and practiced venture capital law for a firm here in town called Morris, Manning & Martin.
Some of us have heard that little firm.
Yep. It's a great firm. Worked with a lot of great guys. Learned a ton of stuff. Worked with startups. Worked with investors. Did M&A, private equity, venture capital. Good experience. Learned a lot. Met a lot of great people. But realized I didn't want to be a law firm lawyer the rest of my life. So left and then ended up joining a startup of my own. We did data capture and analytics and clinical trials. So I jumped into the healthcare space, which is a story for another day.
Not for the faint of heart.
Yeah,
right?
it was. I have a lot of respect for people that go into that space. But yeah, so we built out a product to basically help automate data collection in clinical trials and reduce the inaccuracies and invalidities that often come from that process. And we ended up selling the technology off to an acquirer on the West Coast last summer.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And then, I spent some time working for the acquirer, and then this role at the ATDC kind of fell into my lap. I was just having lunch with my predecessor, and he was like, "Hey, I'm leaving. I think you'd be a good fit." And from my perspective, having a stable paycheck sounded pretty good for once, and just the ability to give back and reacquaint myself with the community is kind of what I was looking for. To share all of my failures in the hopes that others can at least avoid those. That's something that I get a lot of joy out of, especially seeing when they do something that is successful.
So what's next for you and your department, and how can we help? Good question.
Well, so, with respect to me, I'm still going to be here at the ATDC, for the next year or so. And, taking the companies up to Boston and New York is definitely the priority for me over the next month in November. And then we do very similar things, in the spring, where we will take companies out to Silicon Valley and San Francisco. So maybe we'll chat again then.
Yeah.
And for anybody listening, definitely be on the lookout for, an invitation to submit an application for the ATDC's West Coast Venture Showcase. But that's, to be continued. Really the goal is just to get as many eyes on the ATDC as possible, particularly for me, from the investment community outside the state of Georgia.
Well, I'll tell you what might be fun, and this is just our little way of trying to contribute. Maybe when you get back with your group, either down here or up at one of the Atlanta area studios, it might be fun to do sort of a recap.
I love that
with
idea.
The companies and just talk about the experience. That might help you with sponsorship down the road, but even
that's a great
I just think it would be nice. I know for me, if I've had a really productive experience, to recap it sort of solidifies some of the learnings from that. So we'll make that happen if you like.
Yes, please. I would love to do that, and I'd love to come check out your studio as well. That'd be exciting.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story and coming in here and visiting. Keep up the good work. Please do keep us posted. We just we think the world of what you're doing. We think the world of ATDC in general. And we just think you're doing a marvelous job, man. We want to support you any way we can.
Well, I really appreciate that, and the feeling is mutual. So we'll definitely chat again.
All right. We will be back in a few from ATDC Radio.